So great to see you again and welcome back, everyone. I'm Vladislav Novikov, and today I'm joined by Yuri Rashkin, host of the YouTube channel Rashkin Reports and local elected official in the state of Wisconsin. Yuri, really glad to have you with us again.
Thanks for having me.
So now Trump is giving Putin 12 days. That's new and totally unexpected, but is it too early to celebrate?
Well, I don't know. I suppose we can look for things to celebrate. What's wrong with celebrating? We thought that it was going to be 60 days, 50 days, plus minus 2 weeks. Who knows? That we've known. On some level, it's frustrating because prior to this, it seemed like there was at least going to be a certain amount of stability, whether it's good or bad, but there was some kind of predictability that Trump is not going to do anything for 50 days. But now we see that stability just doesn't work for Trump on any level. It's questionable why he made such an announcement because his MAGA crowd certainly doesn't like it. They don't want him to be more involved. They don't want him to be more interested in, that's not America first in their mind. But Trump decides what America first is. So I guess if he says that that's what it is, then that's what it is. And perhaps this is an attempt to call for more leadership. Like his people have lost kind of a. They stopped looking at him as a leader because for 50 days, clearly, I mean, it seems pretty obvious that Trump is rolling over for Putin. And Trump may not like the fact that it clearly looks that way. And so, therefore, he might want to ratchet up his rhetoric in order to see more leader like. On the other hand, this could be something that I've discussed in this stream and in others ones as well. And I don't know that President listened to me, but I'm sure that this thought idea has occurred to many people. If Donald Trump could stop the war in Ukraine, people might forget about Epstein for a while. And I think that the matter of distraction of attention from the Epstein scandal is something that is very much a priority for this president. To the point, I mean, it's clear from the reporters' questions when they ask him about the deal with European Union about 15% tariffs, and the reporters ask him, "Is this because of you trying to change the subject from the Epstein case?" To which Trump said, "You got to be kidding me." Yeah, I mean it depends who's the kidder here, but that's kind of very realistic to ask those questions. We know if Trump was in this situation, he would certainly say this is just an attempt to change the conversation. But it is an effective way to change the conversation, and I hope there will be more ways of changing the conversation because Ukraine could really use some help, and Trump could really use change of subject. So, and the final reason why he possibly could have said that is simply who he's standing next to. He's made that announcement standing next to Keir Starmer, and clearly he's speaking to Europeans. He's in Europe. And one amazing thing about Donald Trump, he matches the audience. When he speaks to MAGA, he sounds MAGA. When he speaks to ABC News reporters, he sounds like an intelligible human being, or at least he tries. He tries to kind of match what they expect of him. And in this setting, they expect him to show that he's supporting Ukraine. And on some level, at least with words. And I think he delivered. I think this is why it's so important to be next to Trump and, and put things in his brain. At the same time, he quoted having a conversation with Putin, and then he's planning on having a conversation with Zelensky next. Those are all good things. And that makes me think of perhaps the fifth reason why this announcement could have been made, which is everybody has bent their knee to Trump, more or less. Japan, European Union, Canada is being kind of funky, but we'll see. But it's not like Trump really is concerned about Canada respecting him. But all the serious players are respecting Trump, and except for Putin. Putin is the one who just doesn't get it. He doesn't understand how great Trump is. And I think that's a really nice way it's a nice kind of idea to develop inside Trump's brain. That everybody respects him and thinks that he is the greatest and would like to give him that Nobel Peace Prize, which could be the reason number 6 why he made that announcement, is that except for Vladimir Putin. And Trump has said that he stops a war on average of once a month for the last 6 months. Besides that being a crazily inaccurate statement, insanely inaccurate statement, it really highlights his interest in having an appearance of peace. Now, you can't say that all the ice on our streets, and this is not, I'm not talking about frozen water, I'm talking about immigration customs enforcement agents whose budget now has been approved to be 4 times of FBI. That's not peace on American streets when we're looking to pick up people who came to court and arrest them and all the things that go with that. But that's not how Nobel Peace Prize is awarded, probably, right? That it's not for that. Although who knows? Barack Obama, in opinion of Donald Trump, received it without having earned it in the first place. So what does that mean if you have army on the streets of your own cities? Who cares? At least I'm being sarcastic. But Trump, according to him, stopped 6 wars so far, once a month. And he's clearly interested in being known as a peacemaker. And it's this one Vladimir Putin who just doesn't, listen to Trump.
Yeah, it's true. And Trump says he all understand all about Putin. I mean, and if Trump already know what he wants, why wait 2 more weeks? Is Putin's final warning?
I think it's not about Trump doing anything so much as it is about him coming to realization that Putin is not going to stop. And it doesn't, I mean, we know that Trump doesn't like artificial intelligence. He says he doesn't like anything with the word artificial in it. I don't know. He likes women with artificial things in them, but that's details. But artificial intelligence will say that there's a less than 5% chance that Ukraine will win the war this year. And there's less than 10% chance that Russia will win war this year. And neither one, is being listened to in Kremlin clearly. So I think that Trump was hoping that Putin would understand that he is in a dead end, that he's not going anywhere. And fine, let's give him 2 more months and he'll understand. But now it's been a few more days and there's no understanding. It's the same Putin as before. And I think Trump, for all the reasons that we listed, is starting to look at Putin a little differently, and change and issue perhaps a different deadline. The question is, of course, what's going to happen after that deadline. So we have 10 to 12 days, and then 2 more weeks, and then 2 more weeks. But we know what needs to be done. And we know how Trump does it. We know that there are sanctions that needs to be put on Russia, and we know that there's weapons that need to be delivered to Ukraine. And and we know how Trump does it, which is with tariffs. And so far, he hasn't put in 10% tariffs on Russia like he has put on everybody else, including Ukraine. So until he puts 10% tariffs on Russia, and I'm not saying there's anything we want to buy from Russia, I just want to see that his money is where his mouth is, and that he stands behind. Well, I mean, who am I talking about here? But I think until we see some actions, we still are hearing just words. But these are very interesting words that were not necessarily expected. And that's one thing you can count on Trump, words that you did not think were expected. And simply because if you listen to him, he said 50 days, but who said 50 days? One thing that worries me, though, here, and that's Trump's constant statement that this is Biden's war. This is not my war. This is Biden's war. And that really, I think, is a very strange statement from President of the freaking United States, because this is national security of the United States, and you are president of the United States, just like the last guy before you was president of the United States. That's your freaking job. Do it. And if this was his war and you're president of the same corporation, you can't change management and now we don't offer those services anymore. This is not a hotel. And this is something that Donald Trump is really struggling to understand. And he thinks that change of management means that this is a totally different new world and nothing new applies. And then nothing applies here from the past. And this is also an opportunity for him to try to get out of it. Because if Putin is not making peace, Ukraine is not changing its position. And so Trump looks like a loser. He doesn't want to look like a loser. That's bad. So what does he do in those situations when he looks like a loser? He gets out. Whether through bankruptcy, whether through health scare, whether through announcing that this is not his war, but Biden's war. To me, this is all Trump creating a window for himself to jump out of and to avoid dealing with Russia. So I don't see still anything that Trump even said even in those changes of direction where I would say, yep, now he's going to put pressure on Putin. I'm hearing that he's saying, I'm failing and I'm going to get the hell out of here.
All people try to understand this thing, and maybe we talk about China too, because if there is no peace in 12 days, will Trump hit China, Brazil, and India with tariffs? Some reports say the US and China are close to a deal, and they trade war might end soon. That doesn't really add up, does it?
Well, in Trump math, everything adds up if you want it to. It just depends what's the outcome that you're looking for. I think bringing China into this conversation is an interesting variable because we know that Trump is debating and pretty much wants to go for his Yalta 2 conference in Beijing, where he and Putin and Xi Jinping can, divide the world into three pieces. And this is so silly because, first of all, you see that there's somebody like Erdogan from Turkey that's like knocking on the door and wants to be the fourth in there, or just let's meet in Istanbul. There's Turkey. Turkey would like to be number 4. But there's also a component of what's going to happen. So let's say they decide that Europe belongs to who? Because Putin wants Europe and China wants Europe. So who does Europe belong to? Of course, we know that Europe belongs to the United States. No, just kidding. They probably think that they belong to themselves, but that's where you need to spend money. And again, build up your army, which was not the case before, because before there was United States, but now the world has changed and now Europe has to militarize. But which is a scary thing historically speaking. But I wonder if the statement about 10, 12 days has something to do with wanting to get things wrapped up sooner so that Trump would have more options about going to Beijing. Because if there is 50 days, it's not clear what Putin's doing. Trump's got to make plans for travel. And it's like the meeting is Beijing is like the day after 50 days runs out. There's some questions there. But if you can get it wrapped up now in the next, then that could be really impressive. Again, this is all just seems like while we're discussing anything, there's a part of me that goes, well, what about the Epstein case? We know that Speaker Johnson, sent all the Republican the House on summer vacation. And they said that Trump has to figure out the Epstein case during August, because if not, when they come back in September, they're going to have to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it. So maybe this is another opportunity to distract our attention. I mean, if there is peace between Ukraine and Russia, I think there will be a lot of people who might say they might say that just publish the damn papers. And I think that might be an interesting situation where Trump is fundamentally, how can I say, he's not able to change the topic. Epstein is going to be with Trump until the end. Because this story every day until Trump allows the documents to be published, even if there's nothing there, but it seems like there probably is because he seems certainly scared about it. Because of the 10 or 15 year close friendship between Epstein and Trump, there's going to be lots of information every day. And so that's what we're seeing. And I think that if peace between Russia and Ukraine can change the topic, and peace in Gaza, I think it's debatable which one would be more powerful. But I think those two things really are Trump's best bet at trying to change the topic.
Okay, let's try to speak about Europe. You started, and I want to continue because we have interesting situation about Trump and Europe. Trump just eat Europe. That's the tone of headlines in Bloomberg right now. A humiliating deal that put the EU in a submissive position. Was this really a case of the stronger side focusing the weaker one to agree, just to avoid something worse?
I think that there's public relations and then there's reality. And I think in public relations, Europe is looking very weak. Europe looks like it's submitting to Trump, and it's reasonable why it makes sense why we see such passionate response from the French, who are not happy with this deal at all, and are being some of the most critical voices we've heard so far. But there's reality that Trump goes around. He seems a little crazy. And you make a deal with him that's kind of like you come out and say, "We made a deal," and you do like jazz hands or something, and then you say, "Okay, 15%, 15%," and then you go away, and that's it. And then everybody goes, "But we have questions. There's details." No, we're going to have to work this out. Is this something where we're going to have like a 15%, something, and then it's going to be decided in terms of negotiations for a long time, where the effects are going to be more negligible? Perhaps. But I think PR wise, yes, Europe is looking weak. But I think long term, United States is weakening itself because these tariffs, which are really a punishment for American consumers, is going to make poorer people in the United States. And so this is a defeat for the United States as well, because tariffs are a bad thing, just period. Just like, let's start with that. And they don't work. This is why people got rid of them. And Trump, with his 6 times bankruptcy, should know better than to do business. But he can't. That's just all he understands: selling, buying, real estate, developing. It's like and women. That's all he knows apparently. And hashtag Epstein. But I think that Europe is going to be really, I feel like, more fine than the United States right now in the long run, because United States is dealing with Trump every day. And Europe is dealing with Trump from time to time and on certain issues. And of course, if you don't smack a bully, he's going to come back again and again and again. And that's the big problem here. We see that Trump, when he was paid ransom money practically by news organizations so that he would leave them alone, he didn't leave them alone and just showed to them that they're weak. And so that's what he explores: weakness and exploits weakness. We see this from his individual meetings to his business dealings, but it's all very short-term gain. Part of the reason he's such a poor businessman is because he doesn't have long-term thinking that is required in trying to build a trusting business where people will trust you long-term. It's about making money right now, and pumping cash out of a business is not a long-term solution, not long sustainable solution. So I think Europe is being very practical here, and they're doing the same thing they did with NATO, where they're saying, "Oh, yes, the amazing Trump. Oh, you are the top." And then they go and do their own thing, like they're helping Ukraine, or they're calling 5% that they're paying for NATO, but they're actually spending the money on Ukraine. This is similar, but it's now starting to cost money. And at some point, if Europe doesn't say no, Trump's going to come back and will want 20, 30% or something else. Because if you said yes once, you're likely to say yes again. But this is the same challenge that Ukraine is, interestingly enough, dealing with, which is, on one, how do you build a good relation with Trump? Where on one hand, you got to give him something that he wants. On the other hand, you can't, because you can't totally, break off the relationship. Essentially, that doesn't work. Like the things that I'm saying, I wouldn't be saying if I was president of Ukraine, because we have different positions. But you have to deal with the United States somehow. And I think everybody's trying to kind of poke this kind of way around of how United States and Trump works. But in the process, it kind of makes some kind of, European Union at the moment is looking weak for bending its knee to Trump, but who knows what will happen next.
Yeah, it's true, but Ursula von der Leyen call it the best possible option. But best from whom? Washington or Brussels? Does this deal show how deeply the EU depends on the US for defense, energy, and even political direction?
As well as markets. We're just a big marketplace. We buy a lot of stuff. We use a lot of things. We're consumers to the core. That's our civilization, our value. And it's a little interesting because I guess nobody before Trump, or at least it's been a while, maybe like late 19th century to early 20th century, where you have American president who basically says, "I have a big gun. This is a dark alley, and I'm letting people through for free. The hell's wrong with me?" No, I got to charge people. And it's also classic Trump because the developer real estate Trump is about charging for access. If you want to have access to our American marketplace, you got to pay. And if you're Europe, then you got to, he already said that it's going to be 15% to 50%. So this way, if European Union didn't get 50%, they all have, and it's so crazy because it's this number 5 that Trump loves. So either you get 15% or you get 50%, but you still get a 5. And Europe didn't get 50; they got 15. So that means they're in good standing with Donald. He must like them a lot. It's also kind of reminds me of what Putin is doing a little bit when he is breaking in, breaking things, trying to annex territories, and people just kind of figure out what to do with it so that you don't go again. Like, how do you manage this relationship? And the only thing that is better about the United States at the moment is that last I heard, we have elections and constitution, which means Trump can't run again. But in Russia, this kind of attitude just leads to more and more abuse. At least we are limited by certain things, so which we are really counting on to do their work.
Now it looks like this. Trump made EU countries increase defense spending and now made them buy EU's weapons. Is that really what happening? Honestly, it looks like kind of genius.
I don't know if it looks like genius or not, but it's we see that Europe is, again, they're trying to placate Trump and they're trying to help Ukraine because they know the same way that China can't let Russia lose, Europe can't let Ukraine lose. And so they're in the same position. So they're doing what they're doing that they can. They've got their 5% deal. And Trump is looking good in this because I mean, it's sad because rather than being a leader of the free world, we are now a supplier. But for Trump base, that's a better way to be because that means you're not actively, well, you still are dragging the world into World War III, which is the craziest thing because the only thing that's dragging world into World War III is Russia. Just let, again, another thing that I think needs to be clarified because I get comments on our videos, our conversations, Vladislav, and I go, are people paying attention? Because if you're MAGA and you think that you are protecting the world from World War III by supporting a friendship with Russia, you're crazy. Europe is doing what it can, and as long as actions are now being taken and expected to be taken by Europe, I have more confidence that it's going to occur than if it's actions that are expected from our 47th president. We've spent most of, chunk of our time discussing his words about words of Putin and actions of Putin is having actions. We see what Putin is doing, and Trump is speaking. However, if all is needed is his blessing, and then European countries can do the rest of the work, then I think there's a good chance of this happening. And perhaps that is the genius of this. This is passing the torch. The United States is no longer the leader, is giving the leadership torch to Europe so that it can continue the leadership, being leader of the free world. And we know leader of the free world is the country or the union that helps Ukraine. Go everybody. I just think that it would be nice if United States was at least a good supplier so that when we say that we're going to provide weapons, we don't say, well, but it takes us 6 months to make one Patriot system. You're America or what? I feel like I am really kind of frustrated here, but I thought, President Biden said that there's nothing that we cannot do when we, as Americans, when we decide when we work together. Apparently, that's not the case anymore. Apparently, America, Trump was right. America can't do anything. Or is it just the leadership? I don't know.
So, Yuri, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and insights. Great to have you with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.